Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast, the podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it and also with food and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman, and today I'm talking with my good friend Michelle from the Fast and Fabulous podcast. And Michelle is an intermittent faster just like me, and we're both moms, but she's down in Florida and I'm all the way up here in Canada. And in this episode, we talk about intermittent fasting and how we started, as well as how we started our sugar-free journey and how we discovered all things gut health. We'll get to our chat in just a minute. But first, I just wanted to tell you that if you're looking for some free resources about how to get rid of cravings, then I have plenty for you. First, download my 5 tips to get rid of cravings. And those 5 tips may not be what you think they are. So go to aftersugarclub.com and download your 5 tips today. Come check out the Life After Sugar Facebook page and subscribe to the Life After Sugar YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram account at My Life After Sugar, which is where you'll get all kinds of inspiration so that you can see that it's perfectly possible to live a happy and active life, even if you don't eat sugar. You can also check out my TikTok account at Netta_lifeaftersugar. All right, so here's my chat with Michelle.
Gosh, the topic that everybody just doesn't want to face these days, which is sugar and all of the sneaky places they are hiding, and a real look at your expertise in your tips, tricks, advice for reducing or completely eliminating sugar from your life and the benefits of doing those things.
Yeah.
Adding to your healthy lifestyle, of course, your fasting lifestyle. So Netta, welcome back. And so I'm just going to dive right in. You are an abstinent, you don't take any sugar at all, including grains.
Exactly.
And you've been that way for 7 years.
Almost 9 years.
9 years. So I want to go through really quick, and I want to start, let's go back 9 years ago when you decided sugar is the problem. How did you get to that place?
Yeah, I didn't decide that. I fought against that for the longest time. It wasn't like I woke up one morning with this, epiphany of, oh, it's sugar that's my problem. I'll just cut it out. No, it didn't happen that way at all. And in fact, I didn't actually realize it was sugar until I'd already cut it out. And
Gotcha.
and experienced the physical changes that were happening in my body. And then I gradually put 2 and 2 together and said, oh, maybe it's the sugar.
Yeah.
It certainly wasn't a conscious decision.
It usually isn't, right? I feel like you kind of have to be starting to eliminate or drastically reduce it into your diet in order to see the physical and mental benefits that you're going to start to experience once your body kind of detoxes from all the built up glucose in your system.
Right.
So let's talk about how you began to notice a correlation between, obviously, you took steps to reduce the sugar and it wasn't like a conscious decision. You were kind of like, oh, I feel so much better now. You saw many, many changes in you physically and mentally. And then once you were in that zone of like no sugar for a certain amount of time, like, I don't know, maybe say like the first year. How did that change? Did you like fall into intermittent fasting, or have you always been kind of an intermittent faster in your life?
Actually, I never heard of the expression intermittent fasting
Mm,
before. I think before I came across Gin Stevens, and that was well into my no sugar journey, right? So, first of all, I mean, I'd heard of fasting like for religious purposes,
sure.
um, but not for any kind of health purposes. And the word intermittent just didn't make sense to me. I just didn't get what it all meant. But what I did live in the same way as the no sugar thing, it was more of a lived experience than it was an intellectual decision, which is rare for me because I'm all about intellectualizing things.
Right.
What I did experience was that the less sugar and flour and grains that I ate, the less hungry I got less often, right? And so the experience was like, wait a minute, how can this be that when I was eating 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, meals and snacks, I was starving most of the time?
Mm,
Whereas it wasn't really that long of a period of time between each meal or snack. But I had this kind of feeling that I've got to eat now, or else, I don't know, I didn't know, there's some apocalypse going on. And when I stopped eating sugar, including flour and grains, I had this experience where I was like, wait, when was my last meal? Hang on, it was 6 hours ago. How come I'm not starving? Right?
wow.
It was very strange to me.
That's very powerful. Because this is kind of the reverse of how most people I talk to come into intermittent fasting. Most people I talk to come into intermittent fasting for weight loss, and then slowly but surely they decide and realize that sugar is holding them back from a lot of things, and not just weight loss goals, but other things health wise. So this is totally opposite of what I normally experience and hear. So this is really amazing. And it really parallels with everything that I'm learning myself over these past 4 years in my own journey. And what I've heard so many people in my group, so many people that I talk to experience themselves as well. So, but you experienced it in reverse, which was you cut and totally cut out sugar for years and then realized that because you were not raising your insulin all day, every day, and you weren't eating grains and sugar, that your cravings for just being hungry nonstop all day, because that's what we were doing, just had diminished. And that is how you stumbled into intermittent fasting.
Right.
And
You're right.
now they work together.
Yeah. And it didn't take that long. It didn't take years. It was a question of weeks, really.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. It was
So,
like,
okay.
and I had to be, not just me, but I mean, we have to be, I think, open-minded enough or aware enough to put two and two together, to even experience this lack of feeling hungry. That's one thing, but to assign a meaning to it is another thing,
Mm,
right?
hmm.
And so my interest at the time, if I remember right, because it was a while ago, almost 9 years ago, was just curiosity. How come this
Mm,
is happening? How can this be? It is the opposite of what I would expect. I would
right.
expect if I'm eating more often to feel less hungry, and if I'm eating less often to feel more hungry, right? And it's what we're told by
Absolutely.
nutritionists and everybody else, right? And we're actually told that it's unhealthy to eat less often, and all the way to even, oh, maybe you have an eating disorder. Right? You just rolled your eyes. Right?
Well, I'm sensitive to eating disorders and people who actually have eating disorders, but it is not what we're doing here. We're building our relationship up with food and actually getting food into our bodies that nourish our bodies and not just processed chemical crap filled with sugar.
Right. And it was like I remember thinking just before I said to myself, okay, I'll try this like temporary 2 week experiment to cut sugar, grains, flour, sweeteners. I remember thinking it can't be sugar. I just so didn't want it to be sugar, right?
It's what we're given as like a treat. And it's almost like, you know, I mean, I've seen it in my own children's lives and I'm guilty of it myself as a mother, but like it's like one of those things where like here, if you do well, like we can go get an ice cream or whatever. Let's celebrate and go get a cookie or something like that. But like I think we need to change the narrative on what a treat is because at the end of the day, at least for me, and I know for you also, a treat is never something that's going to make me feel like garbage
Mm.
after.
Yeah,
And that's what we have to start really trying to hone into that energy and hone into that feeling and really listening to it because I see so many people around me. My husband is one of them. He loves sweets. And so I see him all the time I call him like overdosing on the sweets almost.
yeah,
And then he feels so sick afterwards. And I'm like, why do you do this to yourself?
yeah,
What is it going to take for you to say enough is enough?
yeah. And I think sometimes, and I was the same, right? I was the same. I did
I
what you
think we've all
just
been there.
described. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was me, and that's hundreds of thousands, millions of us.
Yeah.
It's like the idea of not eating any sugar, flour, grains seems so extreme and so opposite to general society in the Western world, at least, that I remember thinking as I said, it can't be that. It can't be that because there's like this cognitive dissonance of it's the complete opposite of what it should be or what we're told it should be. And I just could not wrap my mind around the fact that what I considered to be just unhealthy, extreme, which is no sugar, no flour, was actually the best thing that ever happened to me.
Right.
And yeah, and it's like I
Yeah.
thought, well, if I cut sugar, then my cravings that I already had will get even worse. But what actually happened was the opposite. Cut sugar and sweet tasting foods and starchy foods that spike your insulin, your cravings go away on their own, your physical cravings. The mental cravings or the memories, the good memories we have of all those foods and how we associate those foods with good events or
Mhm.
comfort or reward, that takes much longer, or it took
Right.
me much longer to get over. But the physical cravings, honestly, they went away within a few days and
A
at
few
the most a few
days.
weeks.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I could really see that because when you completely I'm not like you. I don't completely abstain from sugar, but I definitely am a moderator. And I've become more and more of a moderator to the point where I might come over to your side. I might come over to your side and completely eliminate it at some point because as I'm getting deeper into my 40s, deeper into perimenopause, I'm starting to realize the benefits of a mostly meat-based diet.
Mm.
So I'm not opposed to vegetables at all. I love vegetables in moderation. I'm not going to get into that right now, but there are some vegetables that simply don't even agree with my body.
Yeah, hit
So
me
we really
too.
have to just do things that are good for your body. But talking as a woman going through perimenopause, your hormones are changing and you're being depleted of estrogen, progesterone. These are all they're all connected to your weight loss hormones and your metabolic hormones and all that. So I the more I decrease my grains, the more I decrease my sugar intake and overall grains really because I think that's the major thing people are missing here is like, oh, I can decrease my sweets, I could stop eating cookies so much, I could stop having ice cream every night. Fine, great, but like can you stop eating so much bread or so much chips or snacks or whatever they are, those starchy processed cracker kind of foods? That's where people I think really start. That's where I personally
Yeah,
was totally stuck.
yes.
And when I started taking those things away, It's not to say I never have them, but when I started to drastically eliminate those things, my entire health journey totally shifted over
Hmm.
the last year. Totally shifted.
Yeah.
Well, the protein in the meat and the vegetables all together really is what I like to focus on. And it's really keeping me, and I know so many others, their sugar cravings down. And so it's so cool to actually talk to somebody who did it in the opposite way, where where you really just like discovered one because of the other.
Yeah.
Absolutely outstanding. And here you are 9 years later. I mean, it's just okay. So I'm gonna not, I'm always so impressed by this.
Mhm.
So understanding really that not just sugar, it's not just coming from baked goods. It's not just coming from your cookies and your ice creams and all that stuff. Understanding, let's talk about where sugars are hidden because I
Sure.
love talking about the stuff. You are my like go-to source for all things hidden sugar.
Mm.
What is the number one food where you see hidden sugar that you're just like, ah, like every single time you just want to be like, no, you
Yeah.
get so
Yeah.
angry about it.
Well, I mean, I group all the processed foods or prepackaged foods that are created by the food industry in that basket of hidden sugars, right? Because real whole foods, meat, fish, seafood, vegetables, fruit, fermented dairy, they have zero added sugars. And
Yeah.
so, really, it's all the packaged foods, right? And the ones that I find are the sneakiest are actually the savory foods that we're like, what are they doing with hidden sugars in them when you read the label, the
Mm,
ingredients? And so
hmm.
condiments, for example, ketchup and mayonnaise, especially
Ketchup's a
in the
big one, yeah.
United States, they add
Hmm.
high fructose corn syrup. It's like, what are they doing? Adding sugars to savory foods, and then, of course, you've got all the starchy based foods, pizza and, ready-made meals and anything with pasta in it and whatnot. All of those things have hidden sugars or hidden starches.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think like reading labels is pretty important.
well, yes and no. If you're buying
Yeah.
prepackaged or processed foods, read the labels. But
Mm,
if you're buying real whole foods, there are no labels to read. Mind
exactly.
blown.
Isn't your mind blown right now? You don't have to read labels when it just, came from your local butcher shop or your local fishing, your well, we call them something different here, probably. Fish market is what we call them. So
Yeah.
yeah. So whole foods, vegetables, you don't have to read the labels and sticking to the outer, perimeter. We like to talk about sticking to the outer perimeter of the grocery store, but also knowing where your food is coming from, I think is really important too. The way the animals are treated. I mean, like all that stuff kind of comes into play with the quality. To me, quality is everything. I don't know
Yeah.
if you're kind of on that boat too.
Yes, but I don't live down south where you are. I'm up north in northern Canada. And so we don't have, most of the year, we don't have fresh produce. There's just
Right.
frozen wasteland up here. And
It
so
makes sense.
I also live in a small town, 35,000, 40,000 people, 7 hours drive away from the nearest city. So, the grocery stores that we have are big box grocery stores or regular ones. We don't have specialized stores. So, yes, the quality of food is important to me, but I don't necessarily have access to everything
Right.
that you may have access to,
Yeah.
or so I do the best I can.
I got you. That's got to be tough because I guarantee, like, you probably don't have, I'm just going to name something that I use off the bat, like Butcher Box. I love Butcher Box. I like the quality of the meat, but you probably don't get it delivered to your area.
They don't deliver half the things up here
Yeah,
that most people get. Mm.
that's rough. So what do you do in the winter and, or any months where it's like kind of harder to get, quality ingredients?
Well, we do in the fall, we do buy like from a local person, and local is like an hour away.
Yeah.
Um, half, well, we buy a deer, right? A butcher's
Yeah.
deer. And we used to buy half a boar or half a cow or something and put it in the chest freezer, or it's actually a stand-up freezer. But apart from that, I buy the meat at the grocery store that is
Yeah.
on special offer, and
Right.
I watch out for the special offers.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Absolutely.
got to be smart with our
Absolutely.
money, right?
Oh my gosh. Now more than ever.
But
So,
I think my grocery bill is probably lower than the average grocery bill because I don't buy all the snacks and all the just in
right.
case I'm hungry type of foods and
Right.
prepackaged and the going out to restaurants because you're too tired to cook and blah blah blah. I don't actually spend hours and hours cooking anyway.
Yeah, I kind of well, I have two little kids, so I don't spend hours, but I have to tend to their picky needs.
Mm.
So the cooking is always an issue, but I buy a bunch of meat and stick it in my freezer, and I take a piece out every couple of days and cook a bunch of meat up, and then I mostly just eat that with vegetables, and whether or not my kids eat it or not, well, it is what it is. Where I'm introducing things slowly, and their palates are changing. They
Yeah?
are changing, and I have to tell you something. This is a little not off topic at all, but I was thinking about you when it happened. I was walking with my kid after a birthday party at Disney Springs last weekend. He's 9, and as a child, I was not given any sugar. So I was completely given, just like my mom was very, very, very strict. I was not allowed. It was like once, like on your birthday or Christmas or something, you were allowed, but that was it. So when I became a mom, I didn't want my kids to be like, oh, well, you can. It was such a deviant thing to have sugar.
Yeah.
And now I'm like 43 and I don't even want sugar personally. And I don't want my kids to obviously become sick from sugar either, but I want them to kind of learn on their own, not like giving them a free for all or anything, but he was at a birthday party, just to give you an example of how I parent him with the sugar. He was at a birthday party, he had a slice of cake. That was his only sugar for the day, but it was kind of a lot. And we were walking around Disney Springs, and there was this cookie shop where they do these crazy big cookies, and they're like custom or whatever. And I don't know why it's like a new shop. And I had forgotten in me, the hour or two that had passed that he had already had cake. I'm like, oh, do you want to stop and get one? We'll bring it home for later. He goes, Mom, I don't want any more sugar today.
Ah, wow.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I
another
mean,
mind blown.
listen, it was a little moment, but in that moment, I knew that he was already listening to his body, and
Yeah.
that I am setting a good example, and that there is a message getting through to him. Because
Wonderful.
at moments for moms, I think it's hard to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, but he sees what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and he sees, and I explained to him what sugar does and how it can be impactful and make you sick and stuff like that. So I don't give him a free for all, but I want him to know that eating too much is going to make you feel ill. And he's already felt that at times. So he knows now I'm done. And so I hope over time it can just be more and more impactful on him. So I just wanted to share that with you because I was like, oh, my 9-year-old, he's finally listening to his own body. This is amazing. I couldn't hear mine until I was like 40. So
Yeah, yeah, same here. And that's a testament to your mothering skills, your parenting skills, that you allowed him to get there.
I hope so.
I want to take a quick break to say that if this is your first time here, then welcome and thank you for listening to this podcast. And whether you're new or a regular and you haven't yet rated or reviewed this podcast, could I ask you to scroll down and tap on the stars to rate this podcast and also to write a short review to let me know how this podcast is helping you in your life after sugar. I love reading your reviews. And when you rate and review this podcast, not only does it encourage me to continue making new episodes, but It also helps to share this podcast and have more people see it so that we can help more people feel better and lose weight with less sugar. So again, thank you for rating and reviewing this podcast and for spreading the word about sugar.
So I want to talk a little bit about healing our gut and how that has an impact, not just on your health journey, but also on your mental journey as well, because they're calling your gut now your first brain as opposed to your second brain. And your brain first up here, down here, second brain up here, and it's because of all the nerve endings that are connected to our various parts of our brain and all the nerve activity that goes on in your gut. So I'm not going to get too far into the science stuff because I'm not a science person.
Right.
But on a personal standpoint, I've been healing my gut, and I'm totally off all of my heartburn medication.
Whoa.
And which for me is an absolute miracle. Like, I can't even describe to you the miracle that holds. But I'm now in a phase where my gut, I can't even believe I'm saying this, I feel like it's healed. I feel like my gut is finally healed. And I can't even tell you, Netta, the emotional release that I have felt after, like, I don't know, maybe like a month of the healing process after everything was said and done. So let's talk a bit about healing our gut and how that can play a huge role in just your overall health.
Yeah. Yes. I think that now, as opposed to when I first started or stopped sugar, actually, it's a lot more talked about, at least in the circles I move in, for gut health, right? We get it more than 9 years ago.
I think so.
But what happened actually way before I stopped eating sugar, my brother had already been making his own fermented foods because he used to have a lot of digestive issues. In fact, he made his whole business around fermented foods and drinks. Anyway, yeah, he sells them online.
That is amazing. You'll have to shoot me that link
I
because
will,
I'm
yes.
interested. I'm not good at making fermented food.
Yeah, well, he sells them ready-made. Yeah, so anyway, he was making them himself. I thought he was completely crazy and weird to have things fermenting at room temperature. I thought it would kill us, right? But the opposite, yet again, life has proven that the opposite of what we believe may be actually true.
Go
And
figure.
yeah, and when I first cut sugar, I also started experimenting with fermented foods and drinks. And this in together with cutting sugar and flour and basically processed foods, adding in fermented foods and drinks. And just to be clear, that means like yogurt, milk kefir, kombucha, water kefir, and veggies like sauerkraut, kimchi, adding those in and making them myself so I know they're probiotic. Those two things, no sugar, fermented foods, was like the VIP treatment for my gut.
100%.
And I actually did this yet again without really being aware of what the heck I was doing.
Sure.
Probably the best way to go about life anyway. Otherwise, we tend to overthink everything. But yeah, I started that and I never stopped. And, I'm a busy mom like yourself with a job and a business and everything else. And I still make all my fermented foods and drinks because it takes a few seconds to do.
Yeah, that's what they say, and still I screwed it up every time.
Well, maybe because
I don't know. Something may be wrong with me.
you may need a teacher.
I need a teacher. My best friend ferments, and she tried to teach me how to do it, and I failed. I wasted a huge thing of fermented garlic because it just didn't ferment right. But that
Well,
being said,
you and I will get together and I'll give you
I think you might need to give me a few pointers.
Yeah.
But that being said, like, I had the reason I was able to come off my heartburn medication after so long because my gut was totally, like, I can't even describe how messed up it was. It was bad. I went to a functional medicine doctor, highly recommend it if you can swing it. It's totally worth it. I went in February and she told me, besides quitting drinking coffee because it's highly acidic on my gut, I did that very first thing. I've been coffee free now for 2 months. It's life changing for if you have a bad gut.
Right.
However, she said the second thing I need to do is heal my gut. And by doing that, she highly recommends fermented foods, but if you don't have access to that or you maybe don't know how to do it, then I'm on a very high potency probiotic, but I eat high probiotic and prebiotic foods every single day. But her major thing that I took away was she said reduce or completely eliminate starch and grains and gluten in your life, and you
Yeah.
will see a huge change in your gut health. And I am here to tell you that this is not a joke. It is totally real. And I'm living proof because I'm not sitting here not eating any grains. That would be a lie. I eat a little bit of grains, a little, but I've greatly, greatly reduced it now. And my gut is saying, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm so relieved. I'm so relieved. It's insane.
It's insane, and the same for me. And actually, I wanted to say for those people listening that think that I'm sort of some type of perfect unicorn that never, I never eat added sugars knowingly. It's true because I just don't like the taste of sweetness anymore. But when I'm like feeling emotional, when I need, like, I still turn to certain types of foods for emotional reasons. Again, I'm not a robot or a unicorn or anything like that. Um,
Right.
those types of foods could be white bread, not white sliced bread, but like French baguettes, really good
Mm,
quality.
yeah,
Um,
sure.
and and or salt and vinegar chips. Don't
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
like go figure why that particular flavor, but that's what does it for me. And
Yeah.
I cannot, once I start, I cannot stop. So the whole
Mm.
loaf will go or the whole bag I will eat. I will not stop until it's all gone. And what I'm trying to say here is that A, I'm not perfect, in case anyone has ever thought that. Just want to make it clear.
I listen, none of us are perfect. None of
Right,
us are.
right.
We all have our stuff.
And but we tend to put people up on pedestals for
We
whatever
do.
reasons. So
We do.
first of all, I'm not perfect, but also when I do eat those foods, the type of behavior that I have is that I cannot stop once I start. And I've been for so many years without that type of behavior where sugar is concerned that I can recognize it now. And I do not want to have it in my life the few times that I actually find myself in that situation. So there's the behavioral side of it. I don't want to
Mm,
be that netta.
yeah.
The other side is what you were talking about is not just the gut issues or the digestive issues after I eat grains or chips, which are not grains, but they're highly, highly processed. People say, oh, it's a vegetable, it's potatoes. No, 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 no,
It's
no.
all the oil and stuff they put in there.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly. And also the quantity that I
Mm.
get through in a big family-sized bag.
They're designed to make you want to keep going.
Totally
Yeah.
designed, yeah, for that. And after I eat any one of those starchy types of foods, I get like my stomach is totally upside down, but I
Mm.
also get a lot of inflammation. I can feel that my back aches, my joints ache, and I'm going to be 54 in a few days. I don't get aches and pains usually, right?
Wow.
But there, I have noticed a correlation, and this is not scientific, but I've noticed in my own lived experience a correlation between me eating starchy foods, highly processed starchy foods, and gut issues, digestive issues, and
Totally.
joint pain.
There might not be scientific proof. There might not be proof right here, like in front of our face, but doesn't mean there's not evidence.
Well, it
We
doesn't mean
are
you
living
don't
proof.
experience it, right?
Experience. And yeah, we have evidence, personal evidence. You have
Right.
evidence. I have evidence. My functional medicine doctor down the street told me, she's not Western medicine at all. Like she's totally against the grain, against the grain.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I did not expect that pun. However, Yeah, she was the one who told me, like, and I don't know what it was. It was just me really wanting to get off my medication because she's like, that stuff causes cancer. You need to get off of this stuff. Your gut is a mess. And so I guess it was just it's like I knew it, but it was the push I needed. And I really can't thank her enough because here I am, I'm doing this, and I needed a push from somebody else that doesn't even know me
Yeah.
to say, wake up, Michelle. Like,
Yeah.
this is what you need. So it is 100% life changing when I tell everyone that's listening that when we can reduce sugars, and not just baked good sugars, all sugars, grains, starches, anything highly processed in a bag, packaged foods, everything that Netta and I are talking about, when we can reduce or eliminate, your journey is going to change. It's going to change. And the only way that you can find out is by trying and doing and putting those thoughts into action and
Yep.
being disciplined about it.
Yeah,
That's it.
exactly. Exactly, you know. And of course we can wait for one more double blind study to prove it to us. We can't, but I mean, don't hold your breath for those types of studies.
They're
Because,
highly skewed.
yeah, and nutritional
Crazy.
studies, yes, have a very bad reputation for being not very scientific. But be that, you know, being saying that, it's like if we're waiting around for studies to prove stuff, basically, bottom line, what I'm trying to say is it cannot do any harm to stick to whole foods. There is, I think everybody agrees all across the board, nutritionists, scientists, whatever, that sticking to real whole foods cannot be a bad thing. And cutting down or cutting out prepackaged, highly processed foods is probably a good idea for everyone. And it really is not more complicated than that. The complication doesn't come from the actual foods themselves. I think the complication comes from the social pressure and the social messages we get that of what a normal diet is. And even the word abstinent, you know, when we say that someone like me, for example, is abstinent, that also, I think that paradigm needs shifting. I'm not abstinent because I don't eat sugar. You know, it's not
Yeah.
me that's outside of the norm. It's that norm that needs shifting, in my humble
Yeah.
opinion.
100%. I totally agree because what do we have? I mean, I live down here in the States and we have the government telling us that, a bowl of Lucky Charms is healthier for you than a piece of steak.
Yeah, you can come to any conclusion, you know,
Right.
right? When you make sort of logical comparisons, or I know we teach this in our philosophy classes at my college, you can come to any kind of
Hmm. You can.
syllogism. Yeah,
Of
so
course.
fine, yeah. But bottom line is, for me at least, and for the people I help, stick to real whole foods and see if you can question this paradigm, if you can reframe this message of this is what a diet, this is what food is, i.e., all the packaged foods. If you can step out of that paradigm and redefine what food actually is, then that helps an awful lot. Even if you live in the United States.
100%. And, that's kind of the message I'm trying to send now. And I didn't start out this way. I started out eating, I came to fasting, and I came there because I was told, well, you could still drink your wine every night and have your, whatever you want.
Well, you
And,
probably, I mean, the thing is, you can do this or you
well, you
can't.
can, sure.
It's like it's still these messages from out there that we're so used to in like the diet culture. Here's a list of what you can
We
or you
want to know
can't.
exactly. Yeah.
Right. And someone else is telling us as if we were like, what, 5-year-olds? Whereas when you're noticing this is what helps my gut when I eat or don't eat these types of foods, right? And so we are learning slowly to actually decide for ourselves, almost like we're sort of, I don't know, grown-ups.
Imagine. We can think for ourselves. We don't need people telling us what to do. We can actually just do what's best for our own bodies. And it's unfortunate that I mean, at least down here, our medical system doesn't really recognize any sort of nutrition or food as medicine, plants as medicine, that type of thing. They don't recognize anything like that when I feel like all of the answers can be found in nature.
Yeah, and fair enough if it's not recognized by everybody, in the sense of not just every person, but even every organization. Or fair enough. I don't think it needs to be for us to make decisions that are good for ourselves.
I agree 100%. And it's unfortunate too that people can't understand that and can't believe that as well. Because just because somebody on a news station is telling you it's true, or some article pops up on your Instagram that tells you it's true, or some pseudoscientists on TikTok that tells you it's true, doesn't mean it's true. Do your own research, do your own due diligence, and do what's best for your body, and do your own experimentation. We're living proof that reducing starches and sugars in your body has helped our overall health. We're two different beings. You're up there in North Canada, you're a different woman. I'm a different person down here in Florida. You know, we are two different humans, yet the same thing helped us. And it's not to say that it's going to help everyone 100% solve all of your health problems, but I can 99.9% guarantee you, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, it's going to help you in many ways. It's not going to solve all your problems, but it's going to help you in many, many ways that are absolutely life-changing.
Yeah.
So please give it a chance. Just give it a chance. If you've hit a wall on your health journey, if you don't know what to do, try to reduce or completely eliminate, God help us, sugar. Not just baked goods, but all sugar.
Yeah.
So Netta, thanks again for being with me this morning and taking your time out of your morning to be with me.
Oh, you're welcome. You know, it's always a pleasure to talk with you, Michelle. Thank you. Well, there you go. Two moms, two friends, living thousands of kilometers apart, both intermittent fasters, both pretty much sugar and starch free, but with completely different realities, and yet almost the same benefits. Is it magic? I don't think so. Actually, all you really need is some guidance, accountability, and support. And that's exactly what you'll get in the Freedom from Cravings Formula 90-day program. It's a program that's specifically designed for women over 50, whether they're intermittent fasters or not, who want to get rid of cravings and feel more in control around food, especially sugar and comfort foods. In the program, you'll get step-by-step guidance and customized support through the 5-step formula that I've developed to help you get control over cravings so that you can finally live your life with more energy and fit into your favorite clothes effortlessly and feel confident in your food choices so that you can ditch the shame and embarrassment that you feel every time your emotions make you slip or fall off the wagon, and so that you never feel like you're on some kind of a restrictive diet. If you're at the stage of your life where you're finally ready to look after yourself, let's chat. You can hop on a free clarity call with me at any time by going to aftersugarclub.com and clicking on the big green button, Schedule a Clarity Call. We'll have a quick 30-minute one-on-one chat to see if the Freedom from Cravings Formula 90-day program is a good fit for you. So go to aftersugarclub.com. Speak soon. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.